To create an eco bundle, take your prepared and pre-soaked fabric, squeeze all the excess water out of it, and lay it down on the table you are working on. It's also possible to work on the floor if you don't have a table or you are working on large pieces of fabric. But I certainly recommend, as a beginner, you try to work on a tabletop because it's much easier for you and you're not stretching so much. I like to work initially with a long, thinner piece of fabric because it's easier to start with. And I position that along the length of my table near one edge, and I have the short end at one narrow end so that I don't have to stretch too far when I'm laying my vegetation. So position your chosen vegetation up the length of the fabric. If you're working with protein-based fabric, I recommend you give it a sprinkle of vinegar before you lay the vegetation down. If you're working on cellulose-based fabric, give it a 40-second dip in homemade rust water, squeeze the excess liquid out, lay it on your table, and you don't need to do the vinegar dip or vinegar sprinkle. So you've got your fabric on the table, you lay your vegetation, you either roll the fabric up on itself or you roll it up on a core. And if you have somebody to help you, I recommend that you ask them to put their hands down on the end of the length of fabric you're working on, so that as you roll it up, they're putting pressure at the other end and you can make very direct and tight contact with the vegetation. But if you don't have somebody to help you in the studio, like me, I work by myself almost exclusively. Just get a bucket or a pot, fill it with water and put that on the end of your scarf. So you can just roll up and pull towards yourself, and that heavy weight at the end of your piece will help you make good contact with the vegetation. Then when you've rolled a bundle up, you need to tie it very tightly. So you wrap it with your string, tie it really tightly. And I like to leave a tail of string that's about that length from my hand to my shoulder. And I cut the string, and then that tail of string is what I use to tie the bundle to the outside of the eco printing pot. I make a selection of bundles. While I'm doing that, I turn on my heat and I have my dirty pot coming up to a boil. And then when my bundles are prepared, I put them all carefully into the eco printing pot. And if you're using vegetation such as onion skins, rose leaves, blackberry leaves, eucalyptus cinerea, 2.5 hours processing will be plenty to give you really, really nice eco prints. However, if you're using other eucalyptus vegetation, it may be necessary to boil the bundles in the dirty pot for between 3 and 5 hours. If you're only using onion skins, you can actually take the bundles out after 2 hours. But it's only by having successful eco printing sessions, you will begin to realize how long you need to boil different bundles for, and also which results you prefer. And I highly recommend you use your camera on the phone or a regular camera and document the process to make some notes. You don't want necessarily to be writing everything down because you want to enjoy the process, but just take some photographs so that you have a visual memory of what you have been doing that you can refer back to again. Then once the bundles have been processed for, let's say, 2.5 hours, turn your heat off, remove the bundles very carefully from the pot, being careful not to burn yourself. And when they're cool enough to handle, you can actually open them immediately. I have not found a detrimental effect to opening them quickly. And it's like all my birthdays and Christmases have come together at once. The excitement of opening the bundles is fantastic. So open them, be mindful, don't just take everything off all at once. Open the bundles and try and remove the leaves or the vegetation in a mindful way, so you can see whether you like the prints from the upper surface of a leaf, the underneath, or the onion skins, whether you like it from that outside curve or the inside curve best on your fabric. So just enjoy the process of the actual eco printing. And if you're running short of time, by all means, take your bundles out of the pot and leave them until the following day to open them. But if you leave them for any longer, I find that you will get more creases, and I don't find personally that the prints are improved. So I recommend opening them either the day you eco print or the following day, but then you can leave them for weeks before you actually finish them by washing out and ironing and potentially doing any neutralizing. So have fun and enjoy the eco printing process.